All right, Colts Nation, we've got some things to talk about today. That's right. Some stuff has changed since the last time we spoke, which was on Monday, in reaction to that win against the Raiders, where we brought them into Lucas Oil Stadium. We closed the roof to make sure that the outside world couldn't hear the damage we were about to inflict. Then we bent the Raiders over, gave them a little bing, bang, boom, a spanking. We spanked them like children, sent them packing back to Las Vegas with their dignity not at all intact. But now we have some other stuff to talk about. We move on, right? We move on to the next week. Kind of a cluster, you-know-what, of topics to cover today. So when we have that type of thing, we tend to call it the Colts midweek updates, right? Just a bunch of random topics, news, takes, all these things kind of lumped together, perhaps on their own wouldn't warrant a full episode. But you put them all together and bang, on a Wednesday, October 9th, you have an entire episode to listen to. Of course, timestamped for your viewing and listening pleasure, meaning that if all the introduction stuff that I do isn't your jam, you could, of course, skip to exactly where it is that you want to be in this episode and just get the hard-hitting stuff, right? You don't get all the fluff that I put into these episodes for reasons that I cannot explain, but let's stop with the fluff for a moment and let's get to the news real quick because, of course, there's injury updates here for the Indianapolis Colts. 2 players have gone on IR following this game against the Raiders. Spencer Shrader, excellent kicker for us to start this season, on season-ending IR with what I believe is an ACL and an MCL tear, so that's going to kind of be a tough surgery for him. Really, maybe even a couple surgeries. I don't know exactly how that type of things works. But nonetheless, the Colts bring in Michael Badgley, who was with the team in 2021. He's a guy that is a career 82.4% kicker with the Detroit Lions most recently, was even better than that before ultimately tearing his hamstring. And now he's back with the Indianapolis Colts, presumably the hamstring fine, as I'd imagine if you're trying out a kicker, there's only one thing you could have him do, which is kick. So I suppose that the Colts must have seen a proof of concept with Michael Badgley, and we'll see how he does. I mean, there's really not all that much to discuss there. With a kicker, you either make it or you don't, but he has kind of a pretty good reputation, all things considered. Some struggles from 50+, but you don't really know how it's going to go. He has the leg for it, and they either go in or they don't. We'll see how it plays out. The other injury, Mike Hilton, on IR, will miss a minimum of 4 games. Not season-ending, so it seems, for Mike Hilton, who we just signed. He's got a shoulder injury. The Colts will kind of reevaluate what it looks like after that 4-week span. Another corner missing now for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, fuck you, fuck me, fuck us, right? I mean, we can't get away with anything at the cornerback position. I mean, how many injuries? Let's count them. Justin Wally, who was projected to start on the outside, 3rd-round rookie. Jalen Jones, still nursing the hamstring. Kenny Moore. Now Mike Hilton. Xavier Howard, retired, justifiably so. And that's just off the top of my head. I feel like I'm missing somebody else in that discussion. I must be, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, in response to the Mike Hilton injury, the Colts worked out Kendall Fuller, 30-year-old corner, pretty good career up to this point, but that 30-year-old mark, just like a running back at the cornerback position, that's about when you have to start watching out for signs of decline at corner. He was cut by the Dolphins coming into this season, last season, whenever it was. Point being, we have a guy right here. We'll see how that goes if they sign him or not. Some guys tend to fall off way harder than others at corner. The fact that he was not signed up to this point leads me to believe he can't be that good. And then also the Colts working out safety, former 1st-round pick from the Minnesota Vikings, Louis Cine, C-I-N. You tell me how to pronounce it. I have not a clue. 1st-round pick for the Vikings in 2022, then suffered a compound fracture. Ultimately was released by them headed into the 2024 season, scooped up by the Bills 2 days later to their practice squad, where he spent the entirety of the 2024 season until the playoffs, in which the Eagles grabbed him in early January. He ends up joining them for a Super Bowl run, and now he's with the Indianapolis Colts. No matter how you look at it, with those workouts, without those workouts, the injury to Mike Hilton, what it means in terms of the guys that we have, more action for Chris Lamons, who was just recently signed to the 53-man roster. In fact, this last week going into this game. And Jonathan Edwards, undrafted rookie who has been relatively impressive. I would also say it means more snaps for Mekhai Blackmon. But fun fact, Mekhai Blackmon, who drew the start this week in place of the retired Xavier Howard, was the only Colts defender to play 100% of the snaps this week against the Raiders. I liked what I saw from him overall. He was not shut down out there by any means, but ultimately that's not what we'd expect, at least if we're being reasonable. I mean, the guy was not even someone that was on the roster really coming into the season, right? I think they traded from, what was it, right, coming into the season? Was it before week one? Was it at week one? Point being, it's not like they acquired him in March or April or something like that, right? So you wouldn't expect a shutdown corner. That being said, I thought he competed well in this Raiders game. I thought he tackled well particularly, and I thought he swarmed the ball well. So on the back end of this episode, we're going to go over some film from what I liked from him in this game. But we're going to make sure to put the visuals on the back end of the episode, right? Because I want to make sure we talk. Don't worry, audio listeners. I've got you covered. You're still going to get the content that you want. I want to talk a little bit about where the Colts are at. Obviously, the team right now on an absolute heater at 4-1. But if we are to be fair, there are still some things left to prove for the Indianapolis Colts. We'll kind of talk about what those are in my estimation. And then also, I'm starting to see some talk about contract extensions for the Indianapolis Colts, particularly in regard to Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce. I think people seeing A.D. Mitchell's blunder last week and Daniel Jones' stellar play up to this point kind of has a lot of people saying, you got to do it right now. You got to do it right now if you're the Indianapolis Colts. I'll share my thoughts on both of their extensions. And then again, as I said, after all of that, we'll go into the film on Mekhai Blackmon. Sound good? Hope it sounds good because I'm in my room talking to myself, so it's going to have to sound good. We'll do it all, but before we do, you know how it is, I got to introduce the show. My name is Justin. This right here is the Riding the Bench Colts podcast. As always, ask anyone watching and enjoying the show, go ahead, shoot a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, subscribe if you want to be a part of the journey. We're on our way to 4,000 subscribers over here on the YouTube page. We're getting pretty close, so if you keep coming back, enjoying the show, perhaps it's your first day here, and you're liking what you're hearing so far, hit that subscribe button. Never miss an episode again. Of course, audio listeners, leave a five-star review. Let the people know how much you're enjoying what it is that we're doing over here. I always ask for this stuff because ultimately, you guys are the most important thing to this show's growth. Whether it's liking, subscribing, maybe even a little word of mouth, you let a friend know, you let someone on Reddit know. The show is really nothing without you guys that continue to support it. And I appreciate you guys greatly. Some of you have been here since before we even had 1,000 subscribers. We've come a very, very long way. Remember, like my bed used to be behind me. I mean, we've turned now a corner of my room into a set, really. Is what it is. And again, this is all stuff that I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point. I really appreciate you guys. Of course, be civil in the comment section with one another. You don't know what the person on the other end of the keyboard's going through. We're all rooting for the same thing. It's the Indianapolis Colts. We bleed blue. It's for the shoes. So there's really no need to be divisive amongst ourselves. If you disagree with someone, take it as an opportunity to have a discussion, right? That's all it is. But without further ado, let's get back into some of that stuff I was talking about before. So I'm watching the Jaguars, right, on Monday Night Football, as I'm sure you are as well. A game they essentially won, by the way, in spite of their quarterback. Like Trevor Lawrence, I'll tell you something, maybe the first ever quarterback to win a game by accident. Like usually guys look like they're trying to win the game. Trevor Lawrence kind of in that game looked like he was doing everything he possibly could to lose it. He basically admitted as such in post-game where he said on that play where he ends up running in the game-winning touchdown, he said he panicked on that play. But nonetheless, after operating what I think was kind of at a poor level for most of that game, I thought if I'm going to be 100% honest, I know I'm doing a little bit of the theatrics here with Trevor Lawrence. I thought he competed well, right? It just didn't look to me, and really has been the case for most of his career, that he had a real good handle on the operation, right? Like it didn't seem like he was seeing everything the way he should be. And the problem with that with Trevor Lawrence is that it's not like he's in his first or second year, right? Like he's been in the league long enough where you would kind of expect him to be processing things at a quicker rate. But neither here nor there, he makes some big-time throws on that last drive. And then again, finally scampers his way in against the Chiefs. And just like that, the Jaguars end up being 4-1 with a signature win on the season over the Chiefs. And the reason I use the word signature is because that's kind of when I say the Colts have something to prove still. The Colts have not done that yet. They don't have that signature win. Some people may call that game against the Broncos that, and that certainly was an awesome win as well, but I'm not entirely sure I would consider that the one, right? Ultimately, the Colts, as good as they've been, don't exactly have a win over a team that's universally accepted by everyone in the league to be amongst the best that the NFL has to offer, let alone the fact that you haven't played your stiffest competition in the division yet in the Jaguars or the Texans. Now, none of this, of course, is to, be the skunk at the garden party, right? Like, I'm not trying to take away from what it is that the Colts have done. I mean, they've been beating the bottom feeders of this league like redheaded stepchildren, right? Like the Colts, there's something to be said about going out there against a team that's worse than you. And by the way, the margin, right? In the NFL, even a team that's worse than you, the margin of difference, like it's not like you're like the number 3 ranked team in college versus the 120th ranked team, right? Like that's not what it is. Like these are all great teams in their own right. But the Colts going out there and making teams that are worse than them look way worse than them. So, okay, that's fine. That's all you can ask out of the Colts. But the question does still remain. Sure, this is a top 10 team in the Colts right now, but are they in that upper part of the top 10? Or are they in the lower part of the top 10? Yes, we know they're the current number 1 seed in the AFC, which is, I mean, talk about a throwback to the 2009 area, right? But they ultimately haven't had a chance to prove exactly where they stand in this entire thing. If we're to be 100% honest, now I could tell you where I think they stand, but ultimately, if we're being objective, there is a level of we have to be fair to the integrity of the game, right? And the season right now, well, it's been a very fun ride up to this point. It's not yet conclusive where the Colts are going to end up in the grand scheme of the AFC and the NFL. Like you have a stretch coming up. Let me pull it up on my phone real quick just to make sure I remember the exact order of the games. But before the week 11 bye, I mean, the stretch ultimately ends up being, of course, like I wouldn't just have this open on my phone because that would make too much sense. That would be too efficient for me to have prepared in advance for this, right? So you obviously have the Cardinals this week, but then you're going to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. You have the Titans, then you have the Steelers, and you have the Falcons, and then you have the bye week. All right, that's all good and well. Let's say you go into that bye week 7-3 and 8-2, which would be very impressive. That would be great. We don't know that'll happen, but it would be great if it did. But it's really after that bye, that's where it's kind of going to all be decided. Like it almost doesn't even matter what your record is going into that bye on the high end. Because right out of the bye week, you have the Chiefs up first, and then 4 of your last 6 games are against the Jaguars and the Texans. Like, they don't verse either of those teams till week 13, right? Like, that's on the back end of the season. That's the final quarter of the season. And then the other 2 teams that aren't those teams they play in their last 6 are the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. So that will be the stretch for the Indianapolis Colts where you find out whether they're actually Super Bowl contenders or not, right? And right now, we can look, of course, with an educated guess and based off of what we've seen, which has been very, very impressive by all counts. But make no mistake, the reality of the situation is that it has to be proven against the best teams in the league, which does sort of work itself into the conversation about giving contract extensions, right? Because everything I just said about the team as a whole can be applied specifically to Daniel Jones. And listen, there is no one that like Daniel Jones fit on the Indianapolis Colts as much as me coming into this season. But if you're talking about a contract extension, 2 things can be true. I could think Daniel Jones is a perfect fit for the Colts. I can think he's going to be the franchise quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. But I can also think that there's no need to rush any sort of extension with him at all. Like, if you're the Colts right now, you got to let him play this entire season out. And I'm not talking just week 15. I'm talking all the way into the playoffs if you make it. Think about the Vikings last year. Sam Darnold has a damn good year. Then he gets into the playoffs and chokes like a chicken. And I don't just say that to be rude. I'm talking like if you watch that game, Sam Darnold, it reverted back to his old self in that game. In my opinion, personally, it's part of the reason I didn't want him to come to the Colts, because I kind of just think that's who Sam Darnold is at his very core. But nonetheless, it was what it was, right? I think he cost himself an extension in one game for the Vikings. I'm not saying that will happen with Daniel Jones, but if for the sake of due diligence, if you're talking about locking a guy in for the future, you have to see this thing out. So that's the Daniel Jones extension. But the Alec Pierce extension, there are really three reasons I'm confident it's not going to happen anytime soon, at least during the season. Of course, his contract expires at the end of the year, so the decision has to be made going in the offseason. But during the regular season, it's not going to get made. Number one, obviously, is because the Daniel Jones contract looms. You don't know how much money you have to give him. And if you are to pay him, are you sure you're going to pay Alec Pierce? Number two, you do have Adonai Mitchell in all of this, right? Like A.D. Mitchell, say what you want about him up to this point. They drafted him for a reason in the second round, and it was ultimately because Alec Pierce wasn't exactly living up to what they wanted out of a second-round pick, which, by the way, is kind of the exact situation you find yourself in with Adonai Mitchell up to this point. But he's still a key piece kind of in the way they have to evaluate the future of this wide receiver position. Keep in mind, Michael Pittman Jr. already getting paid. Josh Downs right around the corner as well. Adonai Mitchell was sort of drafted as a guy to be the Alec Pierce replacement. Pierce, again, he wasn't really viewed all that much differently by much of Colts Nation than Adonai Mitchell is right now in terms of kind of his trajectory as a receiver into the future of this organization before Adonai Mitchell came along, right? But A.D. Mitchell ultimately pushed Alec Pierce to become a better version of himself, to take it to another level. And the Colts could very easily rinse and repeat that same exact approach to Adonai Mitchell next offseason and let Alec Pierce go. And then three, I'm not even convinced Alec Pierce is sure if he wants to re-sign with the Indianapolis Colts. Like, just think about it. You know how productive he has been with the limited targets that he has, but then you also think about, again, the limited targets and the limited role overall. Like, it's not even just about the targets themselves, but just in terms of how he's used within the offense, primarily as a deep threat. They don't really use him in many other ways with any form of consistency. Alec Pierce is on record saying, or at least implying, that he thinks he's an all-around receiver, not just a deep threat. And it's kind of a consistent theme when you hear from him coming into every season. That's something he wants to prove. He may be right about that, by the way. He certainly, I have no reason to bet against Alec Pierce in that regard. But given all of that, it's kind of quite possible that he looks at the Colts and all the mouths that they have to feed, and he feels it might be better to hit the open market, take some more money, perhaps even the same contract, whatever it is, but for a bigger role on another team. And I wouldn't blame him for doing that, quite frankly. He's a guy that if the Colts don't re-sign to an extension, it may not have been their choice. Like, I could just see a world where Alec Pierce kind of looks at his career trajectory and says and prioritizes himself finally as opposed to the team and says, where can I become the best version of myself? It may not be with the Indianapolis Colts, and that's just a professional decision by Alec Pierce. Couldn't hold it against them. All right, so that's all of that mumbo-jumbo. We got the injuries and we got the random topics for midweek. Now, let's get into the film on Mekhai Blackmon. Allow me to prepare myself very quickly. I have some notes over here, and we pull up the screen. The mouse situation, by the way, I will try my best with my words, right? Ultimately, to kind of keep you seeing what's going on. But the mouse situation is just something we have to work out. I don't know what to tell you on it. It's apparently more complicated than I thought to have your mouse show up and look good on here. So I want you to look, because this is right in the first quarter. This is Mekhai Blackmon on the top of your screen, matched up with Trey Tucker. And what do we say coming into this game? Trey Tucker was kind of a guy. He's a forgotten piece of this offense for the Raiders. He's a speed guy. So when we were thinking about matchups, Mekhai Blackmon was a guy on our defense that we said, all right, he's really one of the only guys, if you're going to play man coverage, that has the speed to cover this guy throughout the course of the game. So sure enough, they matched those two up. And then you have Charvarius Ward matched up on Jacoby Meyer at the bottom of the screen here. But back to the top of the screen, I just want to show what it is that I saw from him. Because again, I said not a shutdown corner in this game, but I thought he really tackled well and swarmed the ball well and did what he had to do on that front, which is really all you can ask. So watching this play real quick, I want you to show he backs up real quick, right, on the top of the screen. Make sure he doesn't get beat deep. They run this quick hitch to Tucker. Look how quickly he closes in. And again, Tucker, not only is he a speedster, but this is a guy that they use for kick returns, punt returns, reverses. He's talented as a ball carrier, right? And look right now with Mekhai Blackmon and Trey Tucker here, and look at all of the space up the sideline. You have Cam Bynum here in the middle of the field, meaning that if Blackmon does not make this tackle, you have a lot of space for Tucker to run. But what does he do? Makes that tackle against a great ball carrier. That is just solid football there out of Mekhai Blackmon. So good on him. Next. Find the play. We find the play. Where is that play? It's always so difficult to find these things, quite frankly. I need to find a better system for this, but hopefully you're able to kind of stick with me on this. Oh, it's the very next play. What an idiot I am. Okay. So the next play, now he's matched up on Jakobi Meyers, right? Over here on the outside. Look at this, right? So they motion Jakobi Meyers across the field. Now he has to follow him, Blackmon, showing the Raiders that this is man coverage. Now watch all the action here, right? I mean, that's tough stuff if you're Blackmon. But look at him. He stays with it, hustles. Look at the speed. And this is just incredibly difficult. You have Tucker here. You have, I don't exactly know who this is on the Raiders because I'm not a Raiders fan. But look how tough of a play this is. Look at the space they're able to create. Look at the wall that they create, the Raiders, between Jakobi Meyers and Mekhai Blackmon. And once again, you end up in a situation where he has to make a tackle that ultimately saves a 30-yard gain. And he does it with absolutely no problem. Again, that's easier said than done. And he does deserve credit for it. That's a very tough play to make right there. We appreciate that, particularly when some of the things we were talking about with Xavier Howard were kind of these just bad effort on these tackles. We see the complete opposite out of Mekhai Blackmon in this game. Next play I want to point out is, let's see, right here. So he's matched up now. Mekhai Blackmon, kind of a smaller guy. He's more of a speed guy than he is a size guy, okay? So he's matched up. Where is he? Right here on the bottom of your screen. Matched up against, I believe, a guy by the name of Joe Beck for the Raiders. This guy is 6'1", 215 pounds. Blackmon is 5'10", 5'11", about $180. So you're talking 30-pound advantage here for number 19, number 18 over here on the Raiders. And watch the way Blackmon plays this. All right. Listen, does he allow the completion? Yes, but he's all over him. He's all over him. And allows him absolutely no space whatsoever. I mean, that's just a good throw and catch. What exactly is it that you're supposed to do right there other than tackle him exactly where he catches it? And that's what Blackmon does. Again, that's what I thought he did really well in this game is, okay, sure, yes, you have moments ultimately where you allow the catch, but when the guy catches it, do you tackle him? Do you swarm the football? Yes, he does. You don't make a completion any worse than it has to be. Next up, we of course have the big interception, which should just be super easy to find because it just says interception, right? Like that would be obvious that you would just find that immediately. There it is. All right. So, all right, this play, I don't know if this is a play call, right? Like I don't know enough about the defensive side of the football for this. But ultimately, right here, you're going to see Mike Hilton's right here in the slot at the top of your screen. He's going to blitz, right? He's going to blitz right here off the edge. And then you're going to have, I think, maybe like an option route here in the slot out of not Trey Tucker, some rookie for them. And then you're going to have whoever this is on the outside kind of take this thing up the sideline, right? So if you're Geno Smith, when this guy blitzes and Blackmon stands where he stands, it's actually like a no-brainer decision, at least initially, to say, okay, this must be the guy. Now, I don't know if this is by design or if this is pure instincts out of Blackmon. I have not a clue. But look at the way when he sees Geno fixing on this target, the way he comes down, and this is that big interception, I mean, those are good instincts there by Blackmon. That's the speed. That's the quick break on the football. That's the type of stuff you really like to see out of him. And then one more play I actually want to show, which was a face mask by him, but I want to speak to his competitiveness here. It's another play where he's lined up on Joe Beck. Again, what did I say before? Massive size advantage that this guy has on him on the top of the screen, right? This ends up being a face mask, but he says, okay, last time he beat me, so let me get a little handsy with him here by myself on an island on the outside and just kind of look at the, I don't even know, how do you put this? I don't want to say urgency, but like just look at how competitive he is right here. Sure, the face mask is there, but that stuff I think gets cleaned up. What you ultimately like is the fact that he's in there trying to play football, right? He's in there trying to play football, and he's trying not to give these guys any breathing room. And that's kind of some of what I liked out of him in this game. So ultimately, he's a guy I'm kind of excited for his opportunity. I'm not saying he's going to be a shutdown corner for the Indianapolis Colts, but I think Mekhai Blackmon has a chance to be a guy that kind of turns into a little bit of a fan favorite here as the season goes on. We've seen him slip a couple times on these. People are talking about him changing his cleats. I don't know. But ultimately, I think he's been playing pretty good football here for the Indianapolis Colts. And this game was a great example. I thought he overall took pretty good advantage of the opportunity he was given. And I'm kind of curious to see how that progresses as the season goes on, because seemingly they're going to need his production. And yeah, that was an episode. That's what we had to talk about today. My name is Justin. This right here is the Ride the Bench Colts podcast. Like, subscribe if you have not yet. And as always, go Colts.